Hi, this is Johnny Marks. I'm the family pastor here at the Woodway campus, and it's our hope that this video will be a resource to you as you learn to share the gospel with kids. In Second Kids, it's our goal and our desire to share the gospel with as many kids as possible throughout their years in our ministry. We do that intentionally several times throughout the year at VBS or Jump or Next Level Camp. You may find yourself counseling one of our kids that has walked back, which means that they have responded to the invitation. There are several reasons why they come back. One might be because they hope they're going to get candy or there's a present or something. Other reasons they come back is because they made a genuine decision for Jesus and they want to know how to follow him in their life. Sometimes they come back just because their friends got up and they want to see what's going on too. Other times they may just want to be baptized and they have questions. The first thing to do if you're sitting with a kid is to encourage them in their decision. Let them know how great it was that they came back, that they had the courage to stand up and make a decision in the first place. It takes a lot of guts, and they need to know that you're proud of them. The next thing that you want to do is to try to assess why they came back. So we start to ask questions. If this is the first time they've ever done this, is this the first time they've made this decision? Why did you come back? I would love to answer any questions that you have. When you do that, you start to understand why they're there. They'll let you know, I don't know why I'm here. In that case, you say, great job, you pray for them, and you send them back to the room. The next one might be because they just have questions about what they heard. In that case, you sit down and you talk to them. Let them ask their questions, and then you answer their questions based on what they say. It might be about the gospel. It might just be about church. Sometimes they've never been to church. Sometimes they just want to know more about the world. And take your time, answer their questions as best you can. Pray with them, and then you can send them back. To the student who just wants to be baptized, they've made a decision for Jesus. They know the gospel, they've heard it, they've received it, but they want to be baptized. What we do here at Second Kids is we want to set up a time they can talk with our family pastors so that they can walk through the gospel to make sure they understood their decision and they understand what baptism is and why they're doing it. The easiest thing to do is to let them know that you'll talk to their parents and set up a time for them to do that, and then pray with them and send them back to the room. The last one and most important kid that you'll talk to is the one who has made a decision. They've responded to the invitation to receive Jesus for the very first time. Your job as a counselor or teacher in that moment is to assess how much they understood and really make sure that it's an authentic decision for Jesus, which can sometimes be difficult, but we have a resource that you can use to make sure that they know what they heard. This is our handprint book. This handprint book gives you the gospel that has already been presented. What we don't want you to do is to rehash the entire thing. Your job at this point is to find out if they understand a few key parts of that presentation. The first part is sin. We want to find out if they understand that they are sinful and what sin is and what it does, which is separate us from God, and why it's such a big deal. Again, if they don't know their need, they're not going to understand what Jesus did and why it was such a big deal. So once you assess whether or not they have understood sin, they've understood their brokenness and their need for Jesus, what you're going to do is you're going to talk about who Jesus was, why it was a big deal that he died on the cross, what does that mean, and how does that fix our problem. This isn't a super long conversation. Again, you don't want to rehash the whole presentation. You're just trying to hit these key points to figure out if they really understood the gospel presentation. If they don't know an answer along the way, make sure that you don't ridicule them and say, oh man, you totally got that wrong. But instead you want to encourage them and say, hey, that's a great answer. Let me explain it this way. And then walk them through. This handprint book has really great scriptures in it already printed out for you. It talks about Jesus, it talks about God, it talks about our sin. And then it also talks about what it means to be a Christian, to ask Jesus into your heart. And you just make sure they understand. We first have to admit that we've sinned. We have to admit that we have a problem. And we go through the scriptures that are in the book. The second part of that, asking Jesus into your heart, is to believe. We believe that Jesus is God in flesh. We believe that he was perfect. He led a sinless life. We believe that when he died on the cross, it wasn't because he deserved it, but because he was taking our punishment for our sin. And then we believe that God raised him from the dead to prove that he had power over death. And he had the ability to give us a new life. Because if Jesus stayed dead, then he's not God. And the last thing, which is so important, is to choose to make him the boss of our life, or in adult terms, the Lord of our life. And to explain that to them and say, choosing to make him the boss shows that we have faith in what he did for us. And so that's really what you're assessing. And if they understand that, and it's clear that they have made an authentic decision to have Jesus be the boss, and they have confessed their sins and asked for forgiveness, then you pray with them, encouraging them, and then we move to the next step.